that we are an outfit that assists victims of a violent crime. What I love about the program is that we assist people when they think there is no one out there that would or could assist. There are a lot of resources in LA County, but what I always say is a lot of resources doesn't mean anything to the victim who can't find them. And so one of my charges is to make sure that people are aware, just first aware that we exist. And so I do tons of presentations. I do presentations all over the county. I have been asked to do presentations outside of the county in other states. I've been asked to work with a lot of different organizations, just trying to, one, get the word out that this program exists. And what I love also about the program is contracted with California Victim Compensation Board in Sacramento. So every county in the state of California has this program. It is run by different organizations, county to county. So first of all, what I love is that everywhere in California, you could be eligible for this program and work with an agency that has the contract with California Victim Compensation Board. In addition to that, all other states and their counties have this program as well. And so know that no matter where you are, you could feasibly be connected to this program in your state. I have worked with a lot of people who have actually fled the state they were in and have ended up, if you will, in LA County. And now they're calling me and saying, you know what, I just need some help. There was a situation that happened in another state, and now I'm here. Can I receive services? And the plus is, yes, you can. You can receive services here in California, even though the crime occurred somewhere else. And that's because we all work together as one huge unit. So I can communicate with this program in any other state, get a crime report for the program based upon where a crime occurred, and actually assist that person here in California. So it's worldwide, if you could imagine. I mean, in this nation, in the United States, anything can happen anywhere, and you could feasibly be assisted. And so that is something that I think that people don't necessarily think about, or they say, well, this might be in California, but if I move to New York, I wouldn't be eligible for this same program. You would be. The program may look a little different state to state, but they have the same program. And so it's a great outfit. It's great to know that we can assist victims of a violent crime, no matter where or when or under what circumstance. And so when I say violent crime, please be aware, we do assist victims of a violent crime. So violent crime would be considered domestic violence, human sex trafficking, gunshot wound, child abuse, child sexual assault, stalking. A lot of people do not realize stalking is a felony, but yes, that is a felony and something that we can assist with. Abuse of an adult, sexual assault of an adult, as well as homicide. All of those are considered, and there are more, vehicular manslaughter. There are a lot of other crimes that are considered violent crime, and so we can assist with those. But we're here specifically to talk about domestic violence. And domestic violence is one of the biggest mysterious violent crimes I think exists. And I call it mysterious because there are so many victims walking around that are victims that have never, ever said a word about their victimology. for so many different reasons, for so many different types of fears that they may be found out being a victim. And I get calls from people all the time. I have issues with people calling me saying, well, I think I'm not sure if I want to leave, but this is the situation and can you help me? And so some of the things about domestic violence that I think people need to understand is that you will never, and see if you can wrap your mind around this one, but you will never understand how that victim feels. And so one of the things I always say to the advocates that I work with or anyone else, don't ever try to put yourself in the shoes of that victim, because you can't understand it, because it comes from comes from a place, one, that is very personal, and two, we are very quick to throw judgment, right, on people when we hear something that we don't necessarily agree with or make sense to us. And a lot of reasons why domestic violence doesn't make sense to people who are not involved in that type of situation is because oftentimes it comes from love. Domestic violence, most of the perpetrators are going to be people that you know. It's domestic, it's violence, 9 times out of 10, intimate partner, spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend. It's going to be someone that is very close to you. And my infamous line is, when you love someone, you see them through a totally different lens than anyone else would see them. And so you are quick to say, but I know they will change. I know they didn't mean to do what they did. I understand maybe they were going through something. Because you love them, you are willing to give them every excuse in the world. But other people don't see them through that same lens. And so therefore, there's a major difference going on with how we may feel about it and under what circumstances it happened. And so people always ask, well, why did they stay? Why can't they just leave? There's so many different reasons why people stay. And when I explain why people stay or under what circumstances they stay, I always say, please open your mind and open your heart with regard to those reasons, right? Some people stay for religious reasons. There are a lot of people that I have spoken to that said, you know what, I don't believe that my God believes in divorce. It's not something that I want to do. I think it would be frowned upon. And so they stay. It may not make sense to you, but you've got to look at things through a very broad lens, because it's not about you, right? It's about the person that you're having this conversation with. And if that's how they feel, my other infamous line is your perception is your reality. And if that's how they feel about it, you've got to begin to work or discuss situations from where people are at. I always say, I always deal with people with regard to where they're at. Now, it has nothing to do with me, but if that's how you feel, I have to take that at 100% truth, and I have to work with you from that space, right? Some people stay. I have heard people say, you know what? I know that's not really who they are. Something happened, and as a result, they made a mistake. And I don't think they'll ever make that mistake again. And so again, you have to work with people with regard to where they're at. 9 times out of 10, or almost 99% of the time, domestic violence escalates. It may start verbally. It may start with them just putting you down and then talking about the way you look, or talking about how you handle the chores at the house, or whatever the situation is. But it escalates. And the reason it escalates is because the person who is the perpetrator, it's all about control, right? It's all about how I can control this person. And if you allow someone who is really into control to get away with one thing, in their mind, what they say is, oh, okay, they stayed. I wonder if they'll stay if I do this. And so this is usually a ratchet up from what they did just previous. And in domestic violence, there is something called the cycle of violence. We talk about it a lot in the domestic violence arena, but usually something will start with something minor, name calling. And when I say minor, I mean minor as it relates to what it ends up with, not that it is a minor situation, but in comparison to where the wheel begins and where the wheel ends, it's minor. Okay. So minor may be name calling. It may be, just a lot of verbal threats. And that person, the person that is the verbal threats are being thrown at, they take it, right? They're like, oh, they may think it's minor. Why did you call me that? Oh, yeah, I was mad. Oh, okay, it's minor, right? And it continues to escalate. And then there's always the explosion, what we call the explosion. The explosion is something much, much bigger that the person had no idea would come their way. After the explosion, and I'm going to give you a perfect example of this with regard to someone that I worked with for many years. After the explosion is what we call the honeymoon stage. The honeymoon stage is where there is profuse apology. Oh my God, I can't believe I did that to you. I am so sorry. You have no idea the stress I've been under. This situation has been, there's something going on at work and I've been under a lot. I had no idea I would snap like that. I'm so sorry. It's the apology after the apology after the apology. And that's where the roses may come. That's where the beautiful dinner may come, because they're really trying to apologize. And it's at that time where the victim says, I didn't think that's something they meant to do. All right. And so that is what we call the cycle of violence, because remember, as the perpetrator, what they say is, oh, okay, I got away with that. Let's see if I can get away with this. And so the control and the things that they do continue to ratchet up. And before the victim knows it, they're involved in a situation that they never in their wildest dreams thought they would ever be involved in. I have dealt with a lot of victims. And while I will say the majority of victims are women, there are many male victims as well. I do not want that to go overlooked. We work with a number of male victims, and I'll give you an example of that as well. But I will never forget getting a call from law enforcement. This was probably a number of years ago. And they said, Shari, you need to come to the hospital because this woman, I think she needs your help. And I said, okay, that was all the information they gave me. I ended up going to the hospital, and her neighbor was actually at the hospital while I was there. And what her neighbor told me was, for the last at least 2 years that the neighbor was aware of, this woman received a beat down. I mean, her husband beat her up every single day. So if you could imagine living with getting beat up every single day, at some point, I understand the victim, at some point it became normal to her. And so she stayed. For 2 years, she got beat up every day. And then the neighbor said, I asked the neighbor, I said, so can you tell me why we're here? Did something happen? Because if getting beat up every day was normal, what happened that caused us to be here as we speak? She said, I really don't know. All I know is that I heard gunshots. So I will tell you, long story, because I ended up talking to the victim, but for 2 years, this woman was beat up every day. And one day, she did not have his dinner on the table when he came in from work. That was that was what caused him to really trigger. And at that moment, he shot her 6 times. Thank God she survived. But while she was in the hospital, after getting all this information from the sheriffs, they said, talking to neighbor, we think this is domestic violence, but Shari, we don't know if she's going to make it or not. She was unconscious. I would go to the hospital every day to read to her for about an hour. I would just read anything. I would read positive affirmations, little, my little stories with a beautiful ending, just so that she could hear positive things. And I did this for a period of time. And one day I went to go read to her and she was gone. And I said, oh, wow, I guess, okay, I guess she got discharged. I was asking the nurses, because of course, my biggest fear is that she was discharged to her husband, right? And they said, no, we actually contacted one of the places you told us to contact, and she's at a domestic violence shelter. And I said, oh, that's great. And I thought, you know what? End of story. 9 times out of 10, I don't tend to talk to victims all the way through and for years later, only because, they're busy trying to get their lives together. And I have moved on working with other victims. And so I never want to, add myself to someone's equation. So about 3 months later, I got a call from that shelter saying, Shari, I think you need to come here. And I said, really? And they said, yeah, we're not sure, but we think this woman is talking about you. So long story short, I said that already. Sorry, I'm sorry, but this is such an interesting story. Long story short, I get to the shelter and I'm talking to the executive director at the shelter in her office. Her door is a little ajar. As I'm talking to her, I hear a woman outside say, oh my God, that's her, that's her, that's her. And I'm like, who is that? She comes running into the office. She said, you used to read to me. You used to read to me when I was in the hospital. And I was like, what? And she said, remember, I used to hear your voice. It was my voice that she connected to, not me at all, because she remembered me reading to her. And once we got reacquainted and, she told me her entire story of how her domestic violence escalated over time to the point where every time it escalated, she just began to receive that as normal. Lo and behold, at the very end, it got so out of hand that merely not having his dinner on the table caused him to shoot her 6 times. So I always try to have a conversation with domestic violence victims to say, I want you to recognize where you are now. And the minute you think something is escalating or something has gotten a little worse than what it was before, I want you to think about that, because many times we dismiss that thought because we love that person that much. And my infamous line is love makes us stupid. And it really does when you think about it, because there are things that we will accept from someone that we love that we would never in a million years accept from someone that we don't. And so all I say is live your lives with your eyes wide open, not just with regard to people that you don't love, but sometimes even more so with people that you do. And so I hope I haven't gone over time. I don't know if where we go from here, is there more you want me to discuss? You tell me, and I'm here for you. But this is there's a lot going on with regard to domestic violence right now. We're seeing an uptick because of the pandemic. People were at home and they were not able to report, or fearful that if they reported, there was nowhere for them to go, right? If they did report. So I always say, be diligent, pay attention, because, my job, our goal, I think, is to move people from victim to survivor and survivor to thriver.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ms. Farmer. Thank you so much. And especially for that story. I think I know it resonated with me, because I am a survivor of domestic violence, and I understood that cycle and how that cycle became normalized until one day he said something that triggered a historical understanding of what he said. I was able to attach it to some of my childhood trauma, and that allowed me to awaken. But we want to thank you, Ms. Farmer, for that information and for starting our week off in this powerful, powerful framework. Now, Shari Farmer can be reached at the LA County Department. Please feel free to reach out to her. We will post her information so that you can reach her. As she stated, what they have in LA County in California, it's in every state. It might be different, but the service is there. Our goal with WOCPSEN is to make sure that the information get out so that we can support and help one another, because it is a pandemic. It is a health crisis. It is a mental health and physical crisis, and we have to take a stand somewhere. Women of concern, professionals, and strategic conscious networking say, we'll take that stand. We'll do what needs to be done. The Lena Baker Domestic Violence and Women's Health Summit is based on, in honor of, the late Lena Baker. She was the first woman of color to be executed in 1945 in Georgia for defending herself from sexual abuse. We're looking at her life and her experience through the intersectionality of race, class, culture, economic divisions, as well as the contents of its time. And we want to thank you, Ms. Farmer, once again for being with us. I'm sure we will have you back again and again and again to make sure that we get the word out. On the 28th, that is tomorrow, we would like to invite you to be with us once again. That will be at 12 o'clock noon, our time here on the East Coast, and it will be at 9 o'clock your time on the Pacific Coast. And our discussion tomorrow will be bearing witness, impact of violence on children of domestic violence. Our own board of trustees member, she's an attorney and a mediator, Joanne Babiak, will be moderator. For additional information on our panels, please go to our website, WOCPSEN.com. And then on Saturday, October the 30th, 12 noon, 9 o'clock Pacific time, our discussion will be Killing Me Softly with His Words, a child of God's response to domestic violence. I'll be your moderator. We have 12 outstanding people that will be discussing the issues of the faith community and domestic violence. Ms. Farmer, do you have any last words for us?
I don't, other than to say, please be diligent. Please pay attention to your surroundings and the people that are around you, the words that they say, the conversations that they have, because you are worthy.
Yes. Excellent. And if they want to reach out to you, maybe speak with you at your office, is there a way they can communicate with you, ma'am?
Is that something I can put in the chat, or is that something I just need to say?
All you have to do is send it to WOCPSEN. We'll post it for you.
Not a problem. I will do that.
We will do that. Thank you so very much. All those that are with us, thank you for being with us today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Please go to our website, WOCPSEN.com, become a member, and be active with us as we make social change. Also, if you'd like to donate, there is a page for donations for any and all of our initiatives. Find out more about us and be a part of us. And Saturday, November the 6th, remember, it's our annual Walking in Silence for the Silence Domestic Violence Solidarity Walk. So we need you to be a part of that too. We look forward to speaking with you very soon. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you, Ms. Farmer, so very much for your time. I know you're extremely busy, and you did not find it not robbery to be with us today. Thank you.
And I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Be blessed.